Socializing without alcohol is one of the biggest challenges people face. Think about it for a second. Alcohol is literally woven into the fabric of society and socializing. You go to a wedding, what's somebody handing you? A glass of champagne, right? You go out with your friends to a pub, what's everybody getting? Pints of beer. You go and hang out with a girlfriend, what are they doing? Getting a bottle of wine. Think about it. Every single social event has alcohol attached to it. Christmas, birthdays, dates, whatever. But today in this video, I'm going to show you how you can socialize without alcohol. But here's the interesting part. I'm going to show you how you can get the effects of alcohol without drinking it. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm going to show you how you can loosen up, how you can feel smooth and sociable and not be stuck in your head without a single drop. And I know that this isn't just going to revolutionize your social life, but I genuinely think there's going to be a handful of people that watch this video and go on to make millions of dollars. And it's literally taken me 10 years of drinking and 6.5 years of not drinking to finally figure this out. And that's why I wanted to share it with you today, because it's going to change your life. But you're going to have to watch this video to the very end so you can understand the full picture. Now, a very quick introduction. My name is Leon Sylvester. I'm the founder of SoberClear.com, which is a coaching company that helps people control their drinking in as little as 48 hours. I've worked with hundreds of clients, including people that got a $200 million company, professionals from NASA, from JP Morgan, from Google. We get a 92 to 97% success rate, and most importantly, the method is new, it's different, and it works fast. So if you want information on that, just go to SoberClear.com, or if you click the link in the description, there'll be a short video that you can watch that explains the method and how we work with people. So if you want to get control of your drinking, go to SoberClear.com or click the link in the description. So, how did I get this realization? So, I need to give you quite a lot of backstory and information because it would all make sense. But here's the thing. When I used to drink alcohol, I was very extroverted, right? I had a very active social life. I was at university for a period. I worked in a restaurant, which involves tons of drinking. I worked in a recruitment agency in London, which was very sociable. I've been a Freemason, which again is just meeting up with people, socializing. I had a good social circle when I lived in England. When I was drinking, right, I was very outgoing and sociable. And when I stopped drinking alcohol, I was introduced to a mentor. And this mentor changed my life forever. And listen, I know this is going to be a bit of a side tangent and whatever, but just bear with me because it will all click for you. But he said, where you are in your life right now is 100% your responsibility. You have designed your life this way, and that's why you've got the results that you've got. Oh boy, I've told this story before, but when I heard that, it stung. I was like, damn, I know he's right, but it hurts. But the great thing about being told that is that meant I could change. And what he said is that whatever your dream is right now, the person you are right now will never achieve that dream. Because if you were the person that could get the dream, you'd have the dream. And he would always talk about how you've got to redesign your character, change who you are, change the beliefs, change your identity, and then go towards what you want. Anyway, so this guy changed my life. And I remember when I just stopped drinking alcohol, I still was very extroverted. That first few months, I was still going out all the time, talking to people. I had no problems with socializing. But eventually it got to a place where my mentor would say, like, this extroversion, it's never going to get you where you want to go. You have to be able to switch it. And there was a point where I just stopped going out, stopped socializing, and I would sit on my computer and build things and research and do analysis and create things. And I did that for multiple years. And it was like I had to change the way I viewed myself and give myself this different identity of somebody who can sit down and focus, that doesn't get distracted by social events and going out with other people. And I can sit and concentrate and focus and create awesome things. And that has changed my life, right? I've built this YouTube channel, I've built my business, SoberClear.com, and being able to lock into that is really important. Now, bear with me. It's all going to make sense in a second. So anyway, yesterday, I went back and listened to an old video of his. And a big part of this video was, sure, changing your identity, but he made this point about introversion and extroversion. And he said, if you want to build a business and do something awesome, you've got to be able to switch them. You can't be too far on one side. You've got to be like a chameleon. And I'll be honest, over the past month or so, I've been on the extreme introversion side of the scale. Now, luckily in that month, we've had some friends come to stay with us, so I've not been totally isolated. But where we live in Dubai is we live in a gated community, and it's quite far away from my friends. So I don't live like near shops or, near whatever, like a place where lots of people congregate. Sure, I live by a park, but it's a quiet park. And trust me, just give me a second and you will see the power of this when it comes to socializing and not drinking. But I realized that I'm way too far on the introvert side of things at the moment. And I'll be honest, I felt a bit stagnant. I felt like I'm not growing. And I realized something. I've got to get myself back out there. I need to be a bit more extroverted and try and find a bit of a better balance. Because there's a time and a place where we've got to lock in and do things, but then there's a time and a place where we need to put ourselves out there. And making this video is a perfect example of it. So why is it so hard to socialize without alcohol in the first place? And what does alcohol actually do for us in a social situation? Well, there are two key things here. When we socialize, especially with new people that we don't really know, we are facing potential rejection. We don't know if these people are going to like us. They might just, socially reject us. And that is a fear that keeps a lot of people stifled. And what happens when we drink alcohol is that fear totally disappears. I'm not gonna lie, right? I know that there's no benefit to drinking alcohol, and just bear with me. The trade-off is never worth it. But in that split second where we're feeling a little bit, like frozen, and we drink a shot or we drink a beer or whatever, then all of a sudden we can loosen up a little bit. There's no denying it. Now, don't get me wrong. The consequence of that is insane because drinking alcohol is a chain reaction that never ends until you stop permanently. But I'm not going to sit here and say that drinking alcohol doesn't help you loosen up. And I remember when I drank alcohol, I had an active social life, but if I didn't feel like socializing or I was a little bit stuck in my head and I had a drink, then I was out there. But the other problem that alcohol fixes is something that you don't need alcohol to fix. So I used to be a personal trainer, and I didn't drink when I was a personal trainer, obviously. But what I had to do is I had to go to the gym, and the only way I was going to get clients was just going and talking to people. And I remember I went to the gym like my first few days, and all the trainers would hide in the staff room. You'd have 8 personal trainers in there, and you'd have hundreds of members all using the gym clueless, and nobody would go and talk to them. And I knew that that was the only way I could build my business. And what I had to do was push myself. It was so hard. But you know what was hard? Was talking to that first person. Hey dude, look, I can see you doing this deadlift. Would you like me just to show you a few tweaks on the technique? No charge, I'll do it right now. And I would just go on the gym floor and help and help and help. But what would happen is I would have that fear, right? That fear would come up. But once I pushed myself past it, it went away. And sure, that might take talking to 1, 2, 3 people, but eventually I had no fear of rejection. It just left. It was weird. The same thing happened when I worked at a restaurant as a waiter. Same thing, I would be a little bit shy at the beginning of the shift, and then 3 hours into it, I'm singing happy birthday. I just don't care anymore. Everybody can be looking at me. It didn't bother me. But that's not in my nature, right? My nature is actually to be more introverted. But I know to get the life I want, I have to push myself and be extroverted. But the key thing to all of this is momentum. Social momentum. And I'm going to give you that trick in a minute to show you how to feel drunk without drinking. But the key to being able to have a good social life is having momentum. Now listen, I can be very sociable. I can be very outgoing, very talkative, building relationships with people. But I promise you right now, if I've been sat on my computer for 5 days, coming up with content ideas, analyzing data, looking at analytics, not talking to anybody, you could put me in any social situation and I will crumble. I will be so in my head because that's what everybody would feel like. It's so difficult to be introverted for multiple days and then go to a social situation and then feel super confident. And that's where alcohol often comes into play. A lot of people will spend Monday to Friday focused, isolated, doing work, and then it will come to Friday night and they don't feel like socializing. They go out, they have a drink, boom, they're feeling fine. But there's such a better way to do this because the consequence of drinking when socializing is that chain reaction. We don't know when it will end. And for me, it will probably end in death. I know that. Because it's never just one drink. It's never just one drink to feel a little bit loose. It always leads to more. So what can we do instead? Well, we need to get that momentum without drinking alcohol. So I'll give you an example. So like a job interview, that's a pretty good example here because that's something where you need to be on your A game socially. You want to show them the best version of you. You want to have good energy. You want to be positive. You don't want to be sat there with your arms folded and just feeling in your head, right? You want to be out there and outgoing. So let's think of a situation like this where the stakes are high. Now this is going to sound odd, but I'm not going to lie. If you had 2 beers before that job interview and you drink, you would probably feel a little bit more loose. And I'm not talking about how other people perceive you, but in your heart, you would feel loose, right? You'd feel a little bit less out of your head. You can probably get that momentum really quickly, and that would be it. However, the consequence of this is them smelling alcohol on your breath, is you slurring your words ever so slightly, them picking up on it. So it's not worth it. The trade-off isn't worth it. So how can we get that same feeling without a drop of alcohol? Well, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be isolated and on a, analyzing whatever. You don't want to be doing the introverted work and then all of a sudden, boom, you're out socializing, especially in any high stakes environment with an important client, whatever. And what's worked for me And what I think is the absolute best thing you need to do is we need small interactions. We need to pick up the momentum, because once we've done that, the fear of rejection totally disappears. We don't care as much anymore, and then we can just get out of our head and express ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some extremely confident and social people that can just do that automatically without alcohol, without anything, and they feel fine. I'll be honest, I ain't that person. I need a bit of momentum. So for example, in that job interview, instead of drinking, which is the worst idea ever, is while you're on the way to the job interview, and let's say you're sat on a train, you're whatever, in a taxi, you have conversations, right? You have a little bit of back and forth, a bit of banter, crack a few jokes, and then you're like, oh, I feel quite good now. And then maybe before the interview, you go to a coffee shop, you talk to the person in the line, hey, how's it going today? You having a good day? Just be nice, just be sound. And then the barista serves you a drink and you crack a joke. Come on, where's my drink? You know what I mean? Like, you just mess around, have a bit of fun, and you realize that there is nothing to be afraid of. And then you get to that job interview, and instead of feeling like, oh, I don't really want to be here, it's like, oh, I'm feeling quite good. I'm feeling quite chatty. I'm getting good feedback from people. I'm building this positive feedback loop that I can socialize without alcohol. It's no problem. And I promise you, one of the best books you can read on this is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that book when people just kept falling out with me when I was like 20 years of age. I don't know why people disliked me so much. I read that book and I was just like, it's so obvious now. I was just an idiot. I just didn't know how to deal with people. So that book can change the game for you. But let's say you're going for a date, right? You're going to meet somebody new. Same thing, you get the taxi, you're having a chit chat. And unless you're one of those supremely confident people, what you don't want to do is just park your car, walk straight there and hope for the best. You really want to get out of your head and get rid of that fear. And I promise you, it's a better feeling than being drunk when socializing. Because whilst you might feel okay when you're drunk, you don't know what that other person's perception of you is. Because more often than not, they're going to be thinking, this guy's slurring his words, he's not really making sense, he's talking nonsense. So when you can get into that same state without alcohol, you're fully present, you're fully in the moment, you're remembering what people say, you're not making a fool of yourself, and you end up building much better relationships. And where I live in Dubai, I don't get this very often, right? I don't, there's no coffee shop nearby. There is one, but it's a really long walk away, so I don't really go, and it's hot. And I don't bump into friends because we're not in like a highly condensed area where all my friends live. They live in a different part of Dubai. So I don't get that as much unless I force myself, if I end up going to that coffee shop. And I know for me, this is really important. I need to be able to switch between introversion and extroversion. And then yesterday, when I listened to my mentor's video, it just hit me like a ton of rocks. I was like, oh, that's what's missing in my life. And I swear, it was the simplest fix. I went into a shop the other day and it was really quiet, and I made a joke about how, flipping heck, we need some music in here. It's like a library or something. And they all laughed and I felt good. And it's like this tiny interaction, which then led me to, having a good conversation with a friend. And now today I woke up feeling sociable, so I made this video. So hopefully you can see the power of this. And this is especially important with a business as well, because if you're doing anything to do with sales and you've got to get customers, it's the same damn thing. Which is why I think this principle can not only transform your social life, but it could make you millions of dollars. And if you click this video on the screen now, I'm going to show you 8 warning signs that alcohol could be killing you. You must watch that.